Welcome to Slope Week. Hopefully you've already been taking advantage of the videos and assignments inside your flowchart. Maybe and ideally you have also been spending some time on Imagine Math as well. With that said, I'm excited to provide you with this introductory video on a new mathematical term for most of you, which is called slope. So what is slope? Slope is actually a value in mathematics that describes the steepness and the direction of a line. Slope is often referred to as rate of change, as the slope does indeed measure how quickly something is changing over a given amount of time. Slope can generally fall into four categories. A positive slope, which is the first category, is indicated by a line that is increasing from left to right. In terms of a real-world comparison, think of climbing up a mountain or slowly rising up a roller coaster leading up to a big drop. Visually, a positive slope will look something like this. Notice positive slopes can be fairly steep to the point of being vertical almost, or they can almost be flat to the point of almost being horizontal. As long as the line is increasing from left to right, the slope will be represented by a positive number regardless of steepness. As you may already be thinking, a negative slope is the exact opposite. So when a slope is negative, the line is decreasing from left to right. Think about going down a ramp, or climbing down a flight of stairs, or going down that big drop from a roller coaster. Negative slopes can also be very steep or be very close to flat as well. But as long as it is decreasing, it's going to be negative. And the steeper the slope is, the quicker the rate of change, meaning the quicker something is changing. So regardless of if a slope is positive or negative, the steepness of the line determines how quickly a situation is changing. So, for example, say you're walking home from school and you decide to measure your distance from school over time. The steepness of your line or your slope will change depending on how quickly you're moving. So if you are walking at a very slow speed, the line will be more flat because you're not changing your distance rapidly. You're walking slowly. Now, if you happen to have a bike and you bike home, your slope or the steepness of your line is going to be greater because you're traveling at a quicker rate. Just remember for now that the steeper a line is, the quicker the rate of change, regardless of if the line is increasing or decreasing. We're going to dive into this concept deeper in future videos. Now, we have discussed positive and negative slopes, but there are still two more types of slopes. So if a line is completely flat, so it's not going up, it's not going down, it's a flat horizontal line, that is called zero slope. I'm zero slope. So this basically means there is no change happening. And if we want to take the walking home example and apply it to zero slope, this means you stopped moving. So you stopped at CVS maybe on your way home. You didn't stop to the corner store because you're not supposed to do that. But maybe you went to a friend, something like that, but you stopped moving away from the school. So you didn't change your distance from the school. That would be represented by a zero slope. Either way, there is no change in distance. Visually, zero slope may be represented by a row of stacked books going across, or a line of wires, like telephone wires, hanging up in your neighborhood. Last but not least, we have something called undefined slope, which is represented by a vertical line. So think of it visually as like a telephone pole, maybe even a basketball hoop going straight up and down, or like the side of a very tall building like a skyscraper. Undefined slopes exist because there's no change over time, because your time is not changing. Therefore, slope, which is a measure of rate of change, cannot be measured. Hence, it is called an undefined slope. So to recap, slopes fall into four different categories. We have positive slopes, negative slopes, zero slopes, and undefined slopes. For this video, I want you to be comfortable with what each slope looks like visually in both the real world situation, so picking it out maybe when you're walking around your house, and graphically. In other words, you should be able to identify when a line represents a positive, negative, zero, or undefined slope. Later videos will discuss slope in detail and describe how to actually calculate slope. Now, if you're more of a visual learner and having some kind of picture representation will help you remember, I introduce you to slope. Slope guide is something that I would consider writing down or drawing in this case, as it is a quick guide to determine positive, negative, zero, and undefined slopes. Now, if you prefer nature and you're not a fan of slope guide for whatever reason, we have a slope tree that you can write down in your notes as well. It's a little simplistic representation. Slope tree also helps you to remember the 4 types of slope. Now I want you guys to hop over to some practice exercises or proceed forward to the next video where I will be discussing slope intercept.